What's going on, guys, gals, and non-binary pals? Welcome to the Nintendo Select Podcast, a weekly Nintendo Switch retrospective and nostalgia podcast where we talk about our favorite Switch memories. Hosted by me, Charlie Walker.
And me, Tucker Hazel.
This week, we'll be listing off our favorite games on the Switch to give you an idea of our tastes, as well as just give us a chance to gush about a bunch of games that we love.
Yeah.
So, Tucker and I, we decided to, for the second episode of the Nintendo Switch Select Podcast, as I said earlier, decided to do a ranking, a little bit of a list, if you will, of our favorite Switch games. So, Tucker, how do you want to do this? Do you want to start from the bottom, start from the top, start with our honorable mentions? Like, what is the vibe? Actually, before we get into that, tell me a little bit about your mindset with constructing this list.
Ooh, okay. So, I am, for my top 10, because we're going to bring 10 of our favorite Switch games, and there are going to be some honorable mentions, and I think that makes sense to do up top. For my 10, I'm choosing only Nintendo-published games. Nintendo-published and developed games. It doesn't matter. Do whatever you want. I don't care what you do. You're the co-host.
No. Listen. I'm not like nervous or anything. I'm just like, oh, that's an interesting approach. I love when we do a top 10 or a list, or anyone does a top 10 or a list, and there is this like little bit of open-endedness that we can kind of just like mess around with and do our own take on it.
Yeah,
right?
And so we're going to be bringing different top 10s, but as I was saying, I'm doing 10 Nintendo games for the top of my list. I just, for the Select Podcast and giving you a taste of specifically my taste in Nintendo games, because that's what we're focusing on mostly for the duration of this podcast, the show in general. I wanted to bring Nintendo games and talk about like the breadth of what I think Nintendo has brought to the system. But I am going to be giving a couple of honorable mentions up top that are not from Nintendo, and so I'm giving myself a little bit of leeway in that way. But how did you take this and spin off?
I just kind of took it as any game that I played on the Switch that I really like. There are some games that are not on this list that I would put in a top 10 list of games that I just didn't play on Switch, so I didn't put it in here. Like Undertale, I think, is one of the greatest games of all time.
It is on Switch
for a number of reasons. And it's on Switch, but I didn't play it on Switch.
Totally
I played it on PC in like 2015, 2016.
Yeah.
So with my list, I kind of just went with games that I specifically played on Switch.
Good place to start.
That really affected me, that I really loved.
Yeah.
And there is one game that's on here that I'm very excited to get to, because it is not something that anyone is going to expect to be on a top 10 Switch games list.
That's exciting.
And it is not because it is not a good game.
Sure.
It is, in my opinion, one of the best games in its genre, if not the best game in its genre. But it's kind of a left turn.
You're hyping this up. I'm getting excited.
Oh, yeah. You should be. You should be.
Now, do we want to jump right into it? Is there any other preamble we do at the top of this? We're only in episode 2, so it's not like we got a flow going necessarily.
I don't think we need a preamble for this. I mean, I feel like what we have here is pretty self-evident. So you do want to do the honorable mentions first?
Yeah, I do. I mean, you do use whatever you want. If you want to put them at like before number 3,
let's do some honorable mentions. Let's run through it.
Okay, so I'm gonna start with my honorable mentions. And I think we'll just go read our 5, and then for our 10, we'll switch back and forth, just so no one guy gets to take up all the air in the room. But for my
and when a pick on the other's list comes up, we're just gonna do that.
Yeah. We'll just say, hey, it's on our list, but then we'll just have the conversation about the game. So here are my 5 honorable mentions that are specifically ones that are not developed or published by Nintendo, which is Picross S4. I love me a Picross game. And Picross S4 was the first one that I got, so it's the one that I love the most. And I played that game, it was like early pandemic, I played that game for like 30 hours or something. I like every puzzle in the game. It's ridiculous. Also,
Picross is so chill. I love a good Picross game. Have you played Murder by Numbers?
I love Murder by Numbers. That's a great game.
Okay,
good. Of course.
Spectacular. One of the best indie games on Switch.
Yeah, and that is certainly on like one of my favorite games on Switch, and that's where I played it. But it did not quite make the 5 non-Nintendo games. Like that's such a specific upper echelon. My second honorable mention is Sky, Children of the Light, which is a game from that game company that made Flow, Flower, and Journey. And then their next game is a game called Sky. It is a free-to-play, massively multiplayer online game that's basically Journey with like 100 people in the sky, and it's just amazing. It's perfect vibes, free to play, but one of the best games I've ever played in my entire life.
Interesting. The premise sounds familiar, but the name of the game itself, I don't think I recognize.
Sure.
When did this come out?
2019? Yeah.
Oh.
And I didn't play it until like 2 years ago because even though Flower and Journey are two of my favorite games I ever played, I saw this and I'm like, oh, they made a free-to-play game? Psh, I'm above all that. But no, it's just a great game that is free. And the great thing about Journey that everyone knows and loves is that you have the other person alongside you and you're helping them through the environment. And there's like that little bit of not asynchronous but anonymous multiplayer that's so special in that game. But this game really leans into that multiplayer aspect of taking people alongside you with the journey. And so everything you unlock actually helps other people, not yourself, which is a really interesting way to like frame progression around multiplayer in a special way. Some of the best music, some of the best visuals. I mean, it's from people who made Journey and Flower. Like, you can't go wrong. And
that's awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out now that I know it's
phenomenal.
Free to play too.
It's phenomenal.
God, that's awesome.
And it's on everything. So just go play it if you're watching this podcast. Then next up, I have A Short Hike, which I just adore that game. I love that game so much.
This list, that game just barely missed the cut for me.
Yeah.
Just barely.
It's so good, man. I mean, one of the most unique visual styles, some of the best music ever. The Mark Sparling score is just transcendent. And I love the little narrative. I love the way that the writing has like these little speech bubbles.
So good.
Oh my god. It's just and there's just so much to do in such a small world. Also, one of the best games ever to speedrun, because not only is the movement phenomenal, but you can beat it in 5 minutes. And so with basically no like tech or routing, it's just an easy game to like get in and out of. And another great game to show people. Just like try this game. It's like 2 hours long, but it's like a very compacted and engaging open world experience.
Yeah, I think that's something that I think is really special about that game in particular. Like last episode, we were talking a lot about games that are very easy to show people.
Yeah.
And I showed A Short Hike to my partner who likes video games and certainly like enjoys them, but she's not really like playing them with the tenacity and frequency that you and I and probably a lot of the people listening are. And she fell in love with A Short Hike. I think she, like, after I showed it to her, like, she bought it on her Switch, and it was like very much like a game that she talks about.
Yeah.
Like it was one of the games that I played with her, and it was like a really like fun time to watch and just experience through someone else's eyes.
Yeah. And then the final game. Oh no, I have two more. I have two more for my top for my honorable mentions, which is Stardew Valley, which is just. It's just all up in me. That game is everywhere inside of my soul. And my final one, SteamWorld Dig 2, which I think is probably like my second or third favorite Metroidvania of all time. I mean, it's just phenomenal. It's so different. Everything's so tightly crafted. It's just remarkable. I love that game.
It's
give me Dig 3, Thunderful Games.
It's so smart.
Yeah,
because it really wants you to be free with how and where you go and how you go there, but in limiting your freedom at first, it makes it feel more linear.
Sure.
And then the more you progress, it's not just about like opening up doors, which don't get me wrong, Super Metroid, like, love that kind of thing. But it's not just about opening up doors. It's just like about opening up the entire world.
Totally.
Like it blends so many different systems going on at the same time with like the money and the looting and everything. It's just
perfect gameplay loop, because you're exploring downwards and then you just go back up and you sell your shit and you're like, oh, now I've got this upgrade. I can go back down there and destroy those particular blocks or like go through this area. I honestly, I might replay that game sometime soon just because I'm just thinking about how good it is. It's just so perfectly designed. But those are my 5 honorable mentions, all from kind of unlikely places. You know, you're not seeing any of the big third-party games or anything like that, but I adore all 5 of those games, and Sky in particular is kind of an underground suggestion there. So everyone who's listening, go give Sky a try.
Okay, so a little preamble to my honorable mentions. Some of these are games that like I wanted to put in my top 10.
Sure.
And like these were the games that I had the easiest time knocking out of the top 10 because they maybe weren't the effusive, like, distinct original thing.
Sure.
A lot of these are like sequels or spins on things that already exist.
Gotcha.
And don't get me wrong, a lot of these games are games that I still adore and would still like hold in very high regard, but I don't know if they make the list. Yeah. And so those games are Mario and Rabbids 1 and 2.
Oh, interesting. Okay, cool.
Lumines Remastered.
Lumines, okay,
Tetris
cool.
99.
Yeah.
Metroid Dread.
Ooh, nice.
And Into the Breach.
Okay, Enter the Breach, only one of those games I have not played. But I like all those other games. So great, you're off to a great start.
Do you enjoy like tactics and stuff like that?
We'll get to that when we talk about one specific game on my list.
Okay.
But
well, you should.
I have it on my Switch. I actually do own Into the Breach, or have access to it. I think one of my friends. Let's just do a little bit of talking about one specific thing that make Nintendo Switch so great. The fact that you can have as many people's profiles on your Switch as you want, download their games from the eShop, and play them on your Switch. I have like 5 of my friends' profiles, and I have access to their entire digital libraries.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it's just so easy. It's so much easier than PlayStation, where if you're sharing it with someone else, it can only be on one console at a time, so that gets a little bit weird. And then Xbox, where you can't be playing the same game, or you can't. It's a whole.
You can't be online at the same time.
But
it's
Switch
so
is the best one for sharing games with other people. If you have someone you trust enough to give your Nintendo Network login, then I mean, I don't even know where my Nintendo account is. It could be on like 200 people's Switches. I don't really give a shit. But yeah, I love that.
Let's enjoy that while we can. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I have a feeling that the accountants at Nintendo are noticing some irregularities in the fund.
Certainly possible.
Yeah, no, that is a game that, like, if you are remotely interested or into or enjoy tactics-based video games, Into the Breach is one of the most efficient and, like, just, like, airtight loops and games that I've ever played. It's, I can't recommend it enough.
Great list of games. Now, do you want to divulge into any of those, or we just want to move on to our top 10s?
Not really. I mean, I feel like Tetris is very much a known quantity.
Yeah,
Metroid Dread, I think, is probably the second best game in that series after Super Metroid. I like Metroid Prime, but I don't like them as much as the 2D games. Tetris 99, like this is very much like what I was saying with like sequels or new spins or iterations. But I think Tetris 99 is probably my favorite version of Tetris. It's either that or Effect or Puyo Puyo Tetris 2.
Those are all great options.
Mario and Rabbids 1+2. I mean, great soundtrack, great vibes, really fun.
Mario and Rabbids 1+2 Raboot Camp. Think about it.
Raboot Camp.
Think about it.
There we go. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's my list. Lumines is like cool and vibey and entrancing.
Yeah.
And if you like Tetris, you should play Lumines because it I can see an argument for it being better. I don't think it is, but like it's really cool. And it's made by the guys who made Tetris Effect.
Yeah.
It's kind of what got them to be able to do Tetris Effect, I think.
And if you like those games, go play Humanity, which came out last year. I love Humanity. That is my favorite game from Mitsuguchi.
I have had Humanity installed on my hard drive for so long.
It's so good.
So long. And I've been wanting to play it, but I've just been so busy with so much stuff that I've had to play for work. It's just like, man.
That's also a game where you can play like just a couple levels at a time. And the great thing about Humanity, not to divulge to a game that is not on Switch, but for too long, but it probably will. I would not be surprised if it came pretty early to Switch too.
I thought it was coming to Switch.
Is it announced? I'm not familiar with that. If that's true,
I could be mistaken.
But why I like Humanity so much?
It's coming to Quest. Sorry.
That's very different. The reason I love Humanity so much is that game is constantly reinventing itself, and so you get those stages like 2/3 of the way through that just completely change shit up, and you're like, wait, this is awesome.
Hell yeah.
I love when games do that. All right.
Amazing.
Shall I start with my number 10?
Yeah, let's hear it.
My number 10. Hold on, let me get my list pulled up here real quick. I was on a different list for the honorable mentions. Holding. Okay, my number 10 favorite game on the Nintendo Switch. And guess what? I have props for every single one of these. Boom! Splatoon 3.
All right.
And I'm choosing Splatoon 3 as the representative of my love for everything Splatoon on Switch. Splatoon 2 is the one I have significantly more experience with. I played that game for probably 3 times the amount that I played Splatoon 3. But Splatoon 3 is the same game, but better. It looks better. It loads better. You have more customization options. And this game has a fantastic campaign. I love the Splatoon 3 campaign.
So Splatoon 3, also on my list.
Excellent.
I argued that Splatoon 3 was the best single-player Nintendo campaign to come out in the Switch era after Zelda.
That's a giant claim, but I dig it.
I think Splatoon 3 single-player campaign, seriously, like, it's so hard to say that something made by Nintendo that probably has sold like 10 plus million copies or whatever, and probably has a really good score on Metacritic, is overrated.
Underrated.
But yes. God damn it. Yes.
We got you.
But believe me when I tell you that Splatoon 3's campaign, start to finish, has, like, I don't think there's a single bad level in there. They're all so creative, so fun, so distinct too from a lot of the other games that came out in that time, and a lot of Nintendo's other output.
Yeah. I mean, I'm actually very glad that you share that opinion, because I specifically nail in the fact that I love Splatoon 3, not only because it's a great Splatoon game, and Splatoon's gameplay, whether that's Turf War or Sam Run, is just fantastic, but I do think that the production value in Splatoon 3 in particular, and then adding on top of that a significantly improved single-player mode. I think the single-player mode of that game is the best that the Splatoon team has delivered, because I played the Splatoon 2 campaign, and I played Octo Expansion, but Splatoon, I don't remember Jack Diddley from the Splatoon 2 campaign. It's totally fine, but it is not particularly memorable until that last battle, though. I love the Splatoon 2 final boss with the spicy calamari incantation planted over it, and you got Callie Marie coming back. It's great. Dude. But everything with the fun extra characters in this, and the ridiculous set pieces that come more frequently in the campaign here than in Splatoon 2 or the Octo expansion, and the hub world. Alterna is a much better place to explore and progress through than anything else.
And there are secrets.
Yeah, there are. Yeah, and they're fun to find, and the little lore bits are there and everything. It just it feels like a complete package in the way that Splatoon 1 and 2 had campaigns, but they felt kind of tacked on. Like, oh, how can we repurpose these mechanics to give someone who's playing by themselves something to do? But the Splatoon 3 campaign is like a major part of why I love this game. And I like Splatoon gameplays a ton. Splatoon's gameplay a ton.
Yeah, I can't agree more. And I really do think that Splatoon 3 in particular, like, the way that its campaign is laid out isn't just cool because you explore it and find secrets in the overworld, but I think it does a really good job of making you actually want to play every single level, even if it's like maybe not a weapon that you like using in the multiplayer mode, which I think is incredibly rare for a game that's so rooted in how it feels and how it plays and how it flows compared to other games.
Yeah, definitely. So that knocks off one of our two top 10s, but we got a chance to tell you, go play Splatoon 3. It's selling worse than Splatoon 2, even though I would pretty much across the board argue it's a better game. I think that is because Nintendo shot themselves in the foot in the way that they admitted they don't like doing, which is releasing two of the games of the same series in the same console. But they made a great game, and to me, that's really all that matters. And it'll be really interesting to see. Now, I haven't played Side Order. I'd like to at some point.
Side Order is very good.
But I'll be really interested to see what the Splatoon team does next, because I think Splatoon is due for a refresh of some kind. I think the three games that they have are all fantastic, but they're very, very similar games. And so Splatoon is due to try something a little different presumably like a couple years into the launch of the next system, which is very exciting. I cannot wait for that.
Battle Royale.
I think that's possible. I think it's possible.
I would really like that.
Yeah, I would love that.
I'm just saying, like, oh god, that'd be sick. Anyways, so you haven't played Side Order. I really recommend it. Nintendo sent me a code for back when I was doing a bunch of stuff for CNN at the time, and I really got into it. Like, I drained my Switch's battery on multiple flights. I was just really having a good time with it, and I've had to put it down since, just for other games, but and because Balatro has taken over my slot as the go-to roguelike that I play, aside from a different game, which I'll get to later on this list. But that is a really well-constructed roguelike. I don't think it is, like, one of the best in the genre, but because of how great Splatoon's mechanics are and how well how already, like, how it's already designed to kind of be granularly adjusted based on, like, different abilities and stuff in the multiplayer modes. I think it works really well in that genre, better than I would argue most Nintendo games do. Yeah,
and also Nintendo just does not do roguelikes. And so seeing them take a crack at it, and again, Splatoon's gameplay being flexible enough to where we can tell that through Side Order and something like the Octo expansion, and then adding Horde mode with Salmon Run into, that they're willing to revamp what Splatoon is, but while keeping its core identity. And so again, I love Splatoon 3. I love its campaign. You really like Side Order. It's a complete package.
Yes.
And it's just exciting to see where they're going next. And I think that this team has only continued to one-up themselves each time they put out a game. What's up next?
So I wanna make it abundantly clear so that the comments don't get up in a tizzy. My list is not ranked.
Okay, that's totally fair. Yeah,
I have trouble ranking this outside of the number 1, which is at the number 1 spot. Yeah. But
I have, and now to juxtapose, I have a ranking of all 72 Switch first-party games I've played, and they're ranked.
That's amazing. That is like a level of dedication and just like
I do this for everything. I rank
Tucker is locked in.
I rank every movie I watch in a given year, and so that's like 450 movies, and they're ranked. And of course, within the ranking, like
450 movies in a year.
Oh yeah, around that. Yeah.
You've seen a lot of movies.
I've seen over 2,000 movies. Yeah.
Holy
what do you want from
shit!
Me? I'm just telling the truth.
That is impressive.
I'm just a man living my life, you know. Got my real.
I watch like maybe 40 movies a year, and half of them are just watching Indiana Jones and Mission Impossible over and over again. Anyways, my first pick is Hades.
Oh, dude! As soon as you said there's one roguelike that I play a ton of, I'm like, I wonder if it's Hades. Because it's not on my list, obviously. I love Hades. I love it.
What if I told you that roguelike is not Hades?
Wait. Oh, shit. Oh, so there's another one. Wait, what the hell?
Maybe.
Wait, all right, continue. Sorry. I'm just saying I love Hades too.
Hades is like one of the best games ever made, flat out.
Totally.
I think it is spectacularly written and acted. The way that it handles its story and parsing out different points of its narrative is like nothing short of genius. It is also very efficient and good at rewarding you for playing well, while also giving you the tools you need to succeed, right? You keep chipping away at this like infernal pit of just enemy after enemy after enemy, just going at it over and over again. And eventually you find your rhythm. You find like, hey, I like to pair this god's aspects of this with the spear or the gun or whatever, or the shield. And eventually you find your groove, right? You kind of know what you're looking for, the kind of vibes you look for. Like maybe you don't like Poseidon as much, but you really like Zeus's abilities because like anytime you hit an enemy, a bunch of lightning hits other enemies in the area, and that's great for the spear build that you use because you throw it and it keeps you safe at a distance. Things like that. And there's so much like micro managing and metagaming of what you're able to do that's deeply satisfying. And I think Hades does this better than pretty much any other roguelike in that once you start building into a certain god's abilities, they will throw those things at you. Like first it'll be like a little bit more common, and it'll be more and more like sometimes it'll be more sparse, sometimes it'll be pretty frequent, but it gives you an opportunity to build the character that you want to be in a really cool way, but it also doesn't just spoon feed it to you, right? It makes you makes you work for it. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and the reason why I love Hades is because while I have enjoyed to a certain extent other roguelike games, especially previous to Hades, narrative is very important to me, and progression is very important to me. And I think that Hades understands that both narrative and progression are something that can be attached to the roguelike formula and have them synergize in a very important way. As you were mentioning, the narrative being doled out over the course of a roguelike game. I love the fact that you were kind of upgrading and customizing your little hub at the beginning and talking to characters, and you have like your collection of all your weapons and things. That progression makes it a lot more satisfying and rewarding for me to want to do the same gameplay loop over and over again, because the reason why I don't get super into more quote-unquote traditional roguelikes, even games like Binding of Isaac or Spelunky, is that starting from scratch every time thing I can find pretty defeating. There are a few games, Hades in particular, that I think has that have transcended that and like mixed that with something that appeals to me a little bit stronger. And I got so into Hades, and I was so surprised because even though I like my other Supergiant touchstone was Bastion, which I love. I love Bastion. I liked Supergiant, but I'm like, man, a roguelike? But then I got super into it. And I did not play it on Switch. I played it on PC. But I'm sure it's obviously I'm sure it's great on Switch. It's a phenomenal game. It's one of my favorite games. So
it runs surprisingly
Yeah.
well on Switch. Like I've never had any performance
And
issues
dude,
on Switch,
apparently,
which is
as of recording,
saying a lot.
Hades 2 Early Access just dropped for free. Anyone can play it. It's not the technical test. It's not just the one boss anymore. This is like the game is basically out, and you can go play it if you want to.
It has taken a lot of energy, a lot of restraint,
Willpower,
even, yes, not to take out my Steam Deck, and install that thing immediately.
Yep.
But I'm just not going to do it. I want to wait until early access is done.
Same here.
I love that Supergiant has a means of kind of making these games into what Hades eventually became when it first came out in like a 1.0 version. But like with all the other games that I'm already playing, stuff that is like properly out this year, it's just like I don't need to.
And it's also it's not that far away. I'm sure it'll be out November or early next year or something. Like the game's it's not going to take an incredibly long time, and I'm totally fine with that. And it's going to be a better game because it came out in early access. My next game, again, I talked about Splatoon 3. You talked about Hades. We both love both those games. But my next game up on the list is, drumroll please, one of the best games in one of my favorite series of all time, Pokemon Legends Arceus.
Ooh, hell yeah.
Dude, dog. Now let me tell you something about Pokemon. I am one of the biggest Pokemon nerds that I know. There's this website called I have it right here. I'm just gonna get the URL, pkmnquiz.com. And this is a website where the only function is a timer and slots for every single Pokemon. And you type in as many Pokemon names as you can and see how long it takes you. And I have done this basically weekly for like the last 4 years. And I can do it in like 30 minutes.
With all 1,000?
Oh yeah. So that's the kind of Pokemon nerd I am, just to clarify. However, it took me, and I've always been a fan of Pokemon. My first game was Pearl on DS.
First game was Platinum.
Dude, Gen 4 babies, look at us. And Pokemon has always been incredibly special to me. I've always been very passionate about it. But the one thing I could never really get over is that I liked the world and the exploration and the character collection and all that so much, but I don't care about turn-based combat. I don't like Pokemon battles. And
what?
I just don't care. I just get them over as quick as I can. I could not give less of a shit. I just want to. I'm a guy that does a living dex in my box. I breed up the next one and then make sure that I have them in the numerical order of my boxes. I'm that kind of sicko. And so, open world Pokemon, Sword and Shield, we know the progression of all of this. But Legends Arceus is the game that showed me that maybe I don't actually like Pokemon gameplay. I just like the Pokemon world. And Legends Arceus basically making battles a much smaller part of the experience, focusing on exploration, on the creatures being real, having more action, and focusing in on the Pokedex, filling out the Pokedex as an actual challenge rather than a list that just kind of fills up in the background, which is, I love filling up Pokedexes, but it's never been as engaging as it has been in Legends Arceus. This game is the step forward in Pokemon that people have always been telling Game Freak to make. And then they did it again with Scarlet and Violet, which is another set of games that I love. But they're not Legend Arceus because this game feels so different. It's a lot more polished than Scarlet and Violet. And it's just very unique in that it's Pokemon meets Monster Hunter, but not in a derivative way, in that you recognize this is Pokemon because it's about the catching. It's about the filling out of the Pokedex and doing a bunch of little challenges to fill up all the different markers. I think this game also has some of the best characters and writing in the entire Pokemon series. I love building up Jubilife Village. The aesthetic is solid. I wouldn't say it's great. I mean, sometimes this game looks pretty fucking gross, but I just adore this game. I think it's phenomenal, and it's easily my favorite Pokemon game on Switch. I mean, I think it's one of the best Pokemon games, period.
Yeah, I have to agree. Like, I did actually really like Scarlet and Violet. I had a lot more fun with them than I expected to, and than I think a lot of other people did. Yep. But Pokemon Legends Arceus, man, what a creative twist for the series. What a smart way to rethink not just, the exploration and living and existing in this world, but even the battles. Like, I think the what is it? Strong style and speed
style.
Agile style. Yes, that is it's very clear that they were like, hey, we're not going to do multiplayer for this game. This is not going to be the
Yes.
competitive, Pokemon World Championships game. This is just a separate thing. So let's get weird with the battles. Let's have it happen in the overworld. Let's have it do all these things. And I think they really knocked it out of the park with that in particular.
And for the boss battles,
they handled it.
They're action battles.
The boss battles
are fantastic.
Are so cool.
And also, I think another thing that Legends Arceus does is, for a not entirely new mainline game, I think the fact that it added new forms and new Pokemon made this game feel a lot fresher than it otherwise would have, because I like Sinnoh. And I like the Sinnoh dex, but it's flawed. It's certainly flawed.
Its dex is its greatest flaw.
By a significant fucking margin. But Legends Arceus, bringing back some of the platinum Pokemon and adding new forms and a couple evolutions, there's like fun things to find in here. And
they're also like ancestors of people from Diamond.
And as a nerd, that's the greatest thing ever. You walk into a new shop and you're like, hey, that guy looks like Saturn. That guy looks like Barry. Like whatever. I'm like,
When I fought when you fight the guy that looks like Cynthia for the first time, and the piano starts going crazy, I popped the fuck off. Yeah. Oh my god, is that one of the best moments in that series for me?
Yeah. And again, I think the narrative is actually pretty strong. I think that it has this sort of like themes of like cults and religion in the background, and like cultural conflict, which I think is it like really increases my engagement with the world and these characters, and the structure of Hisui being so different from what we've experienced in other Pokemon games. I think it's a remarkable game, and shows that Game Freak has significant spark in them. And this is the Game Freak B team. These are not the ones making the major next gen Pokemon games each time. But this is, I think, Legends Arceus is the biggest single leap between entries. Especially if you say BDSP to Legends Arceus, then it's an even bigger leap. But, and we just they're making another game that's coming early next year. And I'm shitting myself with excitement because I think they're going to do something totally left field. And that's awesome.
I hope it's another left turn. I hope it's not just a sequel.
Totally.
Because as much as I like Legends Arceus, like I'm ready to see him keep just doing crazy new shit.
And it feels like it. From what we know of Legends ZA, only Lumio City doing Kalos instead. Like, what's going on here? But I don't want to get too much into that. We're talking about Switch. Legends Arceus, one of the best Switch games, in my opinion.
Another one of the best Switch games is Celeste.
Oh, dude! Oh, man. You are bringing the indie bangers today.
Oh, listen. I cut indies out of my list more than anything else, unfortunately, and it still has a lot of indies. What can I say about Celeste that hasn't already been said? The music, the visuals, the platforming, the themes, the story. Right. I mean,
goosebumps. Getting goosebumps thinking about it.
How excellent is it that you have this allegory about mental health and being trans and like surviving, and it's tied into the gameplay in such an excellent way, and you battle your alter ego, your evil self, as you try and help other people around you. And these characters aren't just generic, hey, here's a side quest for you. These are deeply flawed characters. I mean, the hotel owner, he is the perfect example of, he's not this just like happy-go-lucky town RPG NPC. He is battling some demons, and you are battling the demons for him. And the way that every character is realized in this game is so gripping, but it never comes at the cost of the gameplay. And in fact, I would argue that in many ways it supplements the gameplay in multiple tense sequences where you are running away from something, or you are trying to escape something, or you are trying to get from point A to point B to prove something to yourself, to make yourself feel better about something. It is so good at making the story push you forward into the next incredible moment. Right. And I played this game in like a sitting.
Holy shit! It's not a particularly short game.
It's like 4 or 5 hours.
Okay, maybe it took me long because I suck. That's totally possible. But
I was
still
also
long
like,
sitting
on some sicko shit. I was locked in.
Well, also depends on how much side content you do, which is another thing that Celeste does better than basically any other game ever developed. Is there's like 6 times the game than there is in the normal game. You got 7 different types of collectibles that are hidden behind different things that all have their own levels, and then like 2 times the game in the post game. And I think that Celeste is a great game to me because its narrative, its music, its art direction, and its gameplay are all top notch. But I think what makes the game special even past that is it has some of the best accessibility options ever developed in a game, and it also has some of the best side content ever developed in a game. It's amazing to speedrun. It is the complete package in ways that most games can't dream of, but especially not games made by, 4 or 5 people? I mean, the Maddie Makes Games team is very, very small. And, dog, we keep talking about amazing games that have their next games coming out soon. Earthblade. What's that game going to be like? I can't wait.
It's supposed to come out this year.
I can't wait.
And we know nothing about it aside from that it's like a Metroidvania from the Celeste team, which is like...
Don't, my beating heart. Oh my god. We're getting Hades 2 and a Metroidvania from the Celeste team and a sequel to Legends Arceus that could be entirely different? Is this the greatest time to ever be alive as a human being? I don't know, just putting it out there. Celeste, great pick. Oh my god. We're on a roll. We are on a roll. You want me to jump to my next one?
Yeah, let's hear it.
My next game is a game that we will be talking about in depth coming up soon.
Oh,
it's ARMS.
Let's go!
It's ARMS.
Hell yeah, baby!
Now I've never seen the ARMS logo backwards. I'm looking at this and it's backwards on my view, and that looks really, really weird. But ARMS is a game that is very special to me because it's not popular, and it's one of those games that you resonate with from the beginning, that I resonated with from the beginning. And then once I realized that no one else really cared, it made me like it even more because it's a game I feel I have to defend. I think the main criticism of this game is that it is lacking in content. And I can agree with that. I think that this has potential to be a much more fleshed out package. But I think that what people fail to consider is that this is basically what Street Fighter 1 was to Street Fighter 6 now. Like, this is the beginning of something. And most games that you're comparing this to in terms of fighting games have been going on for 25 years at this point. And ARMS is the rare, totally fresh fighting game IP that, and also totally fresh IP that has all the character, all the fun, all the whimsy, all the creativity that you get from the best that Nintendo has. I mean, and
that soundtrack.
Everything about this game, other than the fact that it is a relatively small in scope game, I think is top notch. I think this is still one of the best looking games on Switch, surprisingly. I mean, the lighting engine 100%. Is fantastic. The art direction, the way that the everything is kind of like either made of like balloon latex or like rubber. So it is like they have like more simple textures, but with a realistic flair of, oh, this is made of rubber, so it's okay that it's not like, hair or fur or whatever.
And the characters, I think all the character models look better than nearly any other game on Switch too. I mean, really, I think that this game was secretly one of the stronger visual showcases for what the Switch could do. But it also came in this package of like, hey, what if we did Wii Bowling plus Punch Out plus a fighting game? And it turned out, in my opinion, really well. I have some stories about this game that we'll save for the ARMS episode. So again, please subscribe.
Which will have a fun guest, by the way.
Backlog Banter channel. Yes, we're gonna have. We got some cool guests coming up.
We weren't able to get one for today, which is why we're doing this instead of what we had initially planned, which was talking about Switch's 2017. But that'll be coming up soon. We're not forgetting about 2017. But I think this is also a great second episode.
I think this is a great way to keep introducing y'all to how we feel about video games. But yes, ARMS is a just a absurdly underrated pick that I really adore.
It's the Switch's first party hidden gem, in my opinion, because I think it works in the way of people are always saying, oh man, Nintendo is just doing the same IP over and over again. But then you look at the fact that they make something like Pikmin during the GameCube or Splatoon during the Wii U or now ARMS during the Switch, and it's got the fun characters and the unique world and the spin on a traditional gameplay premise that Nintendo is so known for. It is the Splatoon for fighting games. But people look at it and they're like, oh, there's only 20 characters and like 15 stages or whatever. I'm like, yeah, that's totally fine. Because also I think what ARMS does that other fighting games don't, and where the real depth and variety comes from, is the fact that you get to swap on the fly what your strategy is, and you could have your left arm and your right arm doing something totally different. And the characters have just enough nuances to the differences in them that they're very fun and different to play, and their designs are fantastic. And I think that the ARMS staff credits theme is one of the best songs ever fucking composed by humankind. I mean, I adore this game. I mean, it's so special to me. And I think that there's a chance that it's not dead. But even if it is, we got a fantastic game that was perfect for showing the inventiveness of the Switch, for showing the graphical fidelity of the Switch, and for also showing the what the Joy-Con can do. Because I think this is also one of the best motion control games I've ever played. Now, I prefer playing it with button controls, but the motion controls are like finely tuned. They're very solid, and I like the fact that you can do both. I also like that there's the different mini games. You've got volleyball, and you've got hoops, and you've got the target practice and all of that. And I have all the badges in the game. And the what were the like Splatfests called? The Test Punch, the party rush.
I know what you're talking
something
about.
like that.
Yeah, but
those were a lot of fun too.
Yeah, they were really cool.
And it had solid post-launch content. 5 new characters added, the badges added.
They had a ton of DLC for that game, and it was all free.
Yeah, it was. Great game. Is this on your list, or does it not make the cut?
No.
Damn. All right. Well, hey, someone brought it up at least. One of us is an ARMS fan at least. You know.
Whoa. Listen, I actually do have a prop somewhere here.
Oh, please tell me it's the like sleeve things that Yabuki was wearing that one time.
Nope.
Oh, okay.
It's.
Please tell me it's an unreleased copy of the Dark Horse comic book that got canceled. Please.
There was a Dark Horse comics for ARMS?
No, it got canceled. But it was supposed to happen.
What the hell?
I still hold this grudge to this very day.
I can't find it right now. It must be in my hamper somewhere. So in 2017, I went to New York for to tour a school, and I went to the Nintendo store right around I want to say like a month or two after ARMS came out. A couple months after ARMS came out actually, and they had the ARMS T-shirt. It was just like a dark gray black T-shirt with the ARMS logo. One of the most comfortable shirts I own. I don't wear it that often because I mostly wear like collared shirts unless I'm like sleeping. But like that is one of the best sleeping shirts I own. Sure. And yeah, that is such a comfy shirt. I also have the yellow Joy-Cons, but they are in my living room right now. But you
gotta come prepared for the prop comedy, man.
I didn't expect ARMS to come up in a top 10 Switch games video.
This is me you're talking about. All right, what is up next? What could follow up ARMS? What a daunting task for whatever poor game this is.
Earlier in this episode, I teased a game that was a roguelike that I have played more than Hades. That has been my go-to roguelike for literal years at this point. That probably has become one of my most played games of all time, joining the likes of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Fortnite, Smash 4, and Pokemon White 2. This game is Slay the Spire.
Oh, interesting. I have never touched that game, so I'll take this recommendation. I will combine my recent infatuation with Balatro with your recommendation. I will play Slay the Spire soon.
Take it to the bank. Take it to the bank. I really like Balatro. I think Slay the Spire remains the single greatest roguelike card game ever devised. Yeah. It is full of references to pop culture. It has a very distinct feel. It is infinitely replayable. The daily challenges are all really cool, really engrossing. I play the daily challenge as I'm going to sleep probably every day at this point, and have for a very long time on and off. Admittedly, I first played this game on Switch, and for a while it was one of my most played games on Switch until I found out that there was a version on mobile, which has since destroyed my life. And listen, I think
the 1-2-3 hit combo of Marvel Snap, Balatro, and Slay the Spire. Imagine when Balatro comes to your phone. You're never gonna do anything else.
I don't want to think about that because seriously, that will ruin my productivity because I am a card sicko to the bone. And Slay the Spire, I think, is what really activated that. It has charm. It is quick. It is but it doesn't pull its punches, right? It is still a decently challenging game. But now that I know what I'm doing, I can go in there and I can pick the game apart. And I think that's what, whether it's Hades or Balatro or Binding of Isaac or Slay the Spire or any roguelike, you go in there and it makes you feel like you're cheating, and it makes you feel like you're getting one over on the game or its designers. It feels so unlike anything else that you can do, in a way that, like, maybe you do like cheat codes in a game as a kid, and like that's cool and that is really fun, and it feels almost like that, but it feels like it's rewarding you for knowing things beyond just three buttons to press
Sure.
on a game's main menu or something like that.
Mhm.
And it is so gripping and so fast, and the way that builds work with each other, where it's not like Hades where you are encouraged to build into something that you like. You start with a certain type of deck and you build into something based on what you're given. And then there are layers upon layers upon layers of different things and different interactions that you can get, to the point where like there are different kinds of runs that you will do in like a daily climb or something like that, which is the daily challenge for Slay the Spire, that will open up new ways of looking at the game altogether. I think it's really spectacular. I don't think it's as full of secrets or interesting like new discoveries to make as something like a Balatro is, but I do think it is just an unbelievably well constructed video game.
Sure. Now you go play Sky, I go play Slay the Spire. We meet in the middle. Predator handshake. Boom, boom.
There we go.
Couple great games. Couple great guys. Next up,
let's do it.
We're returning to your comment about roguelikes, and returning to my comment about strategy games. In my favorite strategy game of all time, Fire Emblem 3 Houses.
Oh, okay.
Now, I said we would talk about this later, and you were asking if I like strategy games. No, I do not. I do not give a flying turkey fuck about the gameplay in Fire Emblem 3 Houses. I just made up that term, by the way. That's a Tucker Hayes original.
Flying turkey fuck. I like that. I think that's something that we need to incorporate more into the lore of this podcast.
Absolutely. Start commenting that in the comments. Can you comment curse
flying
words?
Turkey fuck.
I think you can.
On
YouTube? I don't know.
Well,
I won't delete
get
them.
creative. I've seen a lot of comments say a lot of disparaging things that they shouldn't be saying on other things. I think our friendly viewers can find a way to say flying turkey fuck in the YouTube comments.
Yes,
but
you
should.
Again, I do not give a one of those about the gameplay in Fire Emblem Three Houses. It's good. It's totally fine. But I just like I just like my houses. I like my friends. I like going around Garrigmach Monastery and making pals and fishing and getting to know them and learning their stories.
Dating them and smooching them and going on coffee dates with them.
I mean, you can go on tea dates, but there's not really romance in this game.
Wait, what? That's lame.
They're not in the way that there is in Awakening, where you can have children that you then fight alongside. But wait, did you not know that about Awakening?
I kind of knew that. I knew that there was like some kind of romance system, but I didn't know that.
The mechanic of that game is that like timelines are like folding in kind of or something. So Lucina is Crom's daughter, which you probably know. But the reason that Lucina is fighting alongside Crom is because the timeline is folding. It's a whole fucking thing. But Three Houses, no romance. Unfortunate. I love the romance in Awakening. I love the romance in Fates. But this is just one of the best vibes and one of the best written games I've ever played in my life. Again, I like the comment. It's totally fine, but it's not why I'm passionate about this game, and not why I stayed up until like 4 a.m. for like 2 weeks in a row, just like getting every single interaction to max level and learning about every single character. I chose the Black Eagles, which is Edelgard's house, and they are the ones that, if you choose their path, you end up becoming technically the villain compared to the other two houses. There's a time jump in the middle of the game. The houses diverge from Garrigmach Monastery. There's this political conflict in the background, but for me, it's so much about your class of characters building their interpersonal relationships, getting to know their personalities, listening to the voice acting, knowing who's friends with who and who has particular preferences, and then putting them on the battlefield alongside each other and feeling a genuine bond because you know that these two guys are best friends, or they hate each other and they're reluctantly working together, and then recruiting members from other houses and learning the ways that they interact with your like group. So it's like a new friend joining the friend group for the first time. This game is just so immaculately crafted in the way that it tells an interpersonal narrative of personalities and friendships and differing tastes. This is one of my favorite games ever. I was endlessly addicted to it. I think the music is phenomenal. It doesn't look the greatest, but the character models are great. And that's really all that matters at the end of the day. But that Black Eagles house are a chunk of one of my favorite video game characters of all time. Ferdinand von Aegir, Bernadetta, Petra, Edelgard. I mean, I love these people. Caspar. And when when I was given a alternate version of Fire Emblem Three Houses in Fire Emblem Warriors Three Hopes, which is the Muso version of Fire Emblem, Fire Emblem Three Houses, I shat the bed because, frankly, it's basically on par in terms of writing, but it's action combat, and it also has the base building that Three Houses has, and you're going on. I love Three Houses. It's easily my favorite Fire Emblem game. I played like 2.5 hours of Engage, and I just could not give a single flying turkey fuck less, because
I've heard that Engage's story is just like completely
really
incomprehensible.
Bad. Yeah, it's really bad. There's a scene at the beginning of that where like your mom is like a dragon, I think, and she dies, and you don't know who she is, and you don't know your character. She's like, I'm not sad by this. Like the characters are all crying. You're like, I don't feel a single fucking thing because I don't know who you are. But Fire Emblem Three Houses to me proves that I can enjoy any type of gameplay, even not type of gameplay that I'm particularly like in love with, if a cast of characters and a world that I care about is presented to me. And I did like every single little optional mission and every optional battle because I just wanted to get my characters to like spend time on the battlefield more so they could get their little hearts up, so they could get more conversations. I was hopelessly fucking addicted to this game, and I absolutely adore it.
My next game is a game that I'm almost positive will be on your list, Tucker, and that game is Super Mario Brothers Wonder.
Not on my list.
Not Super Mario Odyssey.
Just outside. I love Wonder, and I'll be able to espouse about it now, but it's not on my list.
Wonder to me kind of captures everything that I love about Mario games. I honestly think it might be my second favorite 2D Mario game. I'm not a big fan of Mario World, and I think this is like firmly a like spectacular take on the genre and the franchise. The platforming feels good. The music is great. The world design is new and distinct, while still incorporating the things that you want and love from a Mario game. I really like all the new power-ups. The drill power-up is cool. The elephant thing is cursed and fun and cute all at the same time. The Wonder Flowers. Oh my god, the Wonder Flowers. I mean, there is another game later on this list that is spiritually very similar to Super Mario Brothers Wonder that I'm excited to talk about. And it is not what you think it is. But that Wonder Flower mechanic lets the developers go bug fucking wild. Dude, I mean,
holy shit.
You hear about how this game did not have a development timeline internally. It has been in development for 10 years. That is unbelievable. That is not something that Nintendo does, and it points to a willingness to get fucking weird and crazy and just break the walls down at every single turn of what Mario can be.
It's a confidence
in a
level.
way
that is
that
you don't see very often.
No, you don't. And like I think like in an era where a lot of Nintendo's decisions with Mario, aside from the Mario Rabbids here or the Mario Wonder there, is largely very safe visually and artistically, and also like sometimes gameplay wise. And Mario Wonder is not that. Mario Wonder is full of big swings, and almost every single one of those swings doesn't just connect, but it goes fucking straight through center field into the out of the park.
Into another state.
Pardon?
Into another state. It just keeps going.
Oh yeah, no, it's out of here. It's in orbit. But if you want to hear more of my thoughts about this game, I reviewed it for CNN. It really just
round of applause.
I 100%.
That's one of the coolest things that anyone I know has done. By the way,
one of my biggest brags in any video game ever is that I 100%ed Mario Wonder before it was out.
Wow, and that's not particularly easy. There's some challenging shit near the end.
I honestly, my biggest complaint with this game is that it's too easy.
Oh, okay.
On my first
I couldn't 100%
through the game, I 100%ed almost everything except for like 2 levels, just playing through it, like front to start. Which is again my biggest complaint with the game is that it was just like a little too easy, even with the challenging stuff. But like, I like didn't get any game overs, all that stuff. So that aside, I really do think Mario Wonder is just like this kind of like perfect encapsulation of everything that Mario has and can be up to this point, and I can't recommend it enough.
That game is remarkable, and it's particularly remarkable to me because I played every 2D Mario game, but outside of like certain moments in 3, which I like, and Land, which I have a weird affinity for, and my childhood memories with New Soup 1, there have been no 2D Mario games that I unabashedly love. Actually, I really like 2, but
hell yeah,
Wonder,
dude.
Yeah.
We got to talk about 2 in another
Sure.
thing.
Yeah. We can make like our favorite games on NSO or something like that. So it's still technically Switch.
Okay.
For time. We'll figure that out in the future. But Wonder for me was showed a willingness for Mario to be modernized in a way that matched my sensibilities of design. I have played a lot of 2D platformers. We're talked about a couple of them here. A game like Celeste. We've played Metroidvanias. We've played a lot of games that have taken inspiration from Mario, and then in my opinion, compared to the most 2D Mario games, built upon them with more interesting gameplay mechanics and more interesting characters and world design. But Wonder took the rest of the industry into account and absorbed the best of it, and you get the weird shit with the Wonder Flowers that turn you into something like, there's the one level where you play as like a little goo thing. I'm like, oh, that's like Drinkbox's game, a Tales from Outer Space or something like that, something outer space. I can't remember the exact name of the game. There's like a fucking like Katamari level, and like they like take ideas from places. You get the badge system from Hollow Knight just absorbed back into Mario, and the badges and the Wonder Flowers I think are 2 of the best things they've ever done in 2D Mario. Period. I think they're phenomenal, and I think the Wonder Flower mechanic in particular is one of the smartest and most ridiculous things that has ever been put into a game. And when you learn about the development history of this game, as you were talking about, it makes it even more impressive. And I think the one thing that always stands out to me is the fact that they took inspiration from unlikely people on the dev team. They asked the sound designers, what gameplay mechanics would be fun to you? They probably asked the fucking janitor what he would want to do. Like, they just went weird with this thing. And it shows in one of the most expressive and uniquely animated and...
Expressive is such a great way to put it. I really think that, like, the Mario games, both 2D and 3D, have rarely touched on this level of consistent and just, like, madcap expressive creativity.
Totally.
It's really just engrossing and surprising how much stuff is in there, and you can go back and still be delighted by the surprises, which I think might be my biggest issue with Odyssey. Is I think a lot of those moments have really strong oomph when you do them for the first time.
Yeah.
But going back and doing them, they're joyful and they're fun, but they don't feel the same way to me as a lot of the surprises in Wonder do.
Yeah, and I think the one area where all of this kind of comes down to like just a single point is the enemy variety in this game. They skipped sicko mode and went straight to fucko mode, to quote the great philosopher video game Donkey. I think the enemy variety in this game is absolutely remarkable, because I've liked enemies in Mario games in the past, but they've always felt like kind of generic to me. But you get the bluebirds, which are little guys that shoot out straws that stick into the wall, or you get the Malmas.
They're in like 2 levels.
Exactly.
Like, there are multiple enemies in this game that are like barely in the game at all, and they're awesome.
What are the popcorn guys? They're little kernel guys, but when they touch lava, they turn to popcorn. Dude, the Mamas, the Hoppy Cats, like, there's just some great stuff in this game, and it's remarkable. It's easily my favorite 2D Mario by fucking, like, not even this is a continent mile. This is much more than a country mile. I love Wonder. It didn't make my list specifically because I'm just a lot more into other gameplay styles rather than just straight up 2D platforming, but it's one of the best 2D platforms ever made in my opinion. So great pick.
100%.
I forgot. I'm up next. Up next, I don't know if this is necessarily a contentious one. It's a contentious one within the fan base of its own series, but it's also one of the most popular games ever made, and that's Animal Crossing: New Horizons. I was listening to the Animal Crossing: New Horizons soundtrack last night, some of it, for an upcoming BLB project that will hopefully get us a lot more viewers and people finding us through the algorithm. And every time I heard one of the songs from New Horizons, the world just melts away. This is one of the most special games of all time to me. And as everyone knows, it's a game that cannot be separated emotionally from its release timing. Obviously, if you're watching this video, you are old enough to remember the pandemic and March 2020, when everything shuts down and you lose access to your friends and going out in public, and Animal Crossing: New Horizons releases at the perfect time to add consistency to your life and friendship and exploration and whimsy.
That's a great way to put it. I never thought about the kind of consistency and the structured time that Animal Crossing brings in.
Totally.
Because you're absolutely right. I mean, you and I had the benefit of, well, I don't know what your situation was, but I certainly had the benefit of being in college at this time.
Yeah, I was in college as well.
Which for the most part I think was terrible during the pandemic. But I think during the early days, I mean, having something that was consistent and reliable and say, hey, every Tuesday at 10:30 you have to go to Professor so-and-so's journalism class to do investigative reporting from home, which it doesn't make sense in the context of everything else that's happening. But you have these people that you get to see and talk to, and you get these things to do that are structured and scheduled in a lot of ways. And having a daily task like that was so necessary for me.
Yeah, and I assume this was a game you also played during that time.
Yes.
Yeah. So that specifically, obviously, that is, I think, the core of why it's so special to me. But I also will make the argument that this is an evolution in a very important way of the Animal Crossing formula, because even if the customization of everything, the fact that you can choose where to place your new villagers' houses and you can terraform the environment, even though that is, and in some ways, a rejection of what made Animal Crossing special from the first game up to New Leaf, which is another game I really enjoy. I played a lot of New Leaf. I think the fact that they were willing to go back on that one element and to increase the way in which you had control over your environment, I think was very important. And for me, the element that pushes Animal Crossing to be one of my favorite games, specifically this game, the idea that you now have control over everything around you, and I think it increases the social possibilities of this game. Obviously, this game has very substantial, visiting other people's island and trading with each other and things like that. And I think the next game will lean even more into that. But I think that the fact that you can craft and collect things and terraform the environment and customize everything to the nth degree takes what I loved about Animal Crossing to an extra level. And I just have so many memorable moments in this. I think that the aquarium from Animal Crossing New Horizons might be my favorite video game location of all time. You've got all the tanks that you fill up over time, and you're catching bugs and you're catching fish and you're finding fossils, and it all looks so gorgeous. I think this might be the best looking game on Switch, and I think it also maybe has the best soundtrack of any game on Switch. It's just so important to me, and I think it's really important to the Animal Crossing series. I think it's important to Nintendo. I think this is it's one of the best games of all time, and I'm going to, there's going to be a puddle of pee on the floor when the next one is revealed, because I won't be able to hold it in. I mean, my bladder will completely fail. Incredibly special game to me.
Yeah. It's a great game. I have no point of reference for any other Animal Crossing game, let alone game in this genre, really.
Yeah, of course.
I played this game because everyone else was playing it, and I was like, this usually isn't my thing, but I had a great time with it, and I think it really expanded my horizons, no pun intended. But my next game, I deliberately put this next to Super Mario Brothers Wonder, and that is What the Golf.
Oh, that's a great game. It's a great game. I love What the Golf.
I firmly believe that What the Golf is one of the greatest games ever made.
That's an awesome take to have.
I think that What the Golf is in the same way that Mario Wonder kind of moves from mechanic to mechanic and idea to idea in really clever ways, always never content to sit still. What the Golf is the final boss of that mindset and that approach to a video game. And I struggle to think of a time where What the Golf has not surprised or delighted me in some in some way, and in continually reiterating on itself and hey, let's do this new mechanic, let's do 4 or 5 different versions of it and move on to something completely new, while also still being somewhat cohesive within the structure of golf.
Yeah,
I think is brilliant. If you don't know anything about this game or you haven't heard about it, do not watch any trailers. Do not look anything up.
Yeah.
Please, for the love of God, if there is anything you take my word for in any of these podcasts, any recommendation at all, please make it What the Golf. What the Golf is just going to charm your goddamn socks off in ways that you won't even expect. It is both a love letter to video games in a way that I did not expect or see coming, while also being something completely new and original and never reliant on empty nostalgia in a way that I think a lot of games that try to posit themselves as love letters to video games kind of wind up being.
Yeah, that's fair.
And not to mention the multiplayer, which has entertained my household and other households
I've never
more
played
than almost any other multiplayer game on Switch.
I've never touched the multiplayer. I mean, I played through the story mode, the single player. I mean, it's the main game, and I also I like that game a lot. It is not. I'm not as effusive about it as you are, but I think that what makes What the Golf so special is what you were saying of it wears its influences on its sleeve and is unafraid to embrace them and reject them where necessary. The fact that you get a fucking super hot level and like a Flappy Bird level, and it's like, what?
And Katamari.
This is a golf game.
And Mario.
What are you talking about?
Portal and Spider-Man.
Yeah.
There's so much shit in that game, and it's so dense. Like, you're never doing something that is boring.
Yeah, and also another thing that I love about that game, and another game that I was supposed to be in my my honorable mentions until I changed it to being not Nintendo games. It's very similar in the reason why I love Yoshi's Crafted World, in that the level to level surprise and delight of that game, the variety is off the charts in both ways, or in both games. In What the Golf specifically, it's because each level has like 3 or 4 ways to play it. Like, you can beat it once and move on to the next thing, or you can go back to that same one and it'll give you the same idea, but remixed in a totally different way. And then there's like an EX version at the end that's like completely sicko and wacko.
Yes.
And I really, really love that. And also, this is just me getting an extra honorable mention of I love Yoshi's Crafted World to go play this game. Easily the best Yoshi game. But yeah, I love What the Golf. That's a great, very, very odd recommendation.
Yeah, Tucker, the fact that you and Abram haven't played the multiplayer,
he's never touched that game.
Like,
he's never played What the Golf.
Okay, so another thing that I love about What the Golf is it has something called the Show to a Friend mode.
What?
Where it is what the Golf is like this like perfect little like. Again, going back to these games that are ideal to show to other people, What the Golf is one of them, where it has this thing called the Show to a Friend mode. It's like a 10-minute long, basically like a PAX or E3 demo. You sit someone down, you hand them a controller, and you start this mode up. You don't need to do anything else. It teaches them how to play, and it shows them what the Golf can be and can do, and sometimes does, without spoiling the greatest surprises. It is the perfect hook to bring someone in, to show them what this game is before playing the multiplayer with them.
That's wild.
And it's also a great way to get people into the main story, which is something that like I really do think is one of my favorite campaigns of any game on Switch. It's so sick.
Yeah, that's a great pick. And I did not know about that mode. I don't think I've ever heard of another game doing that, frankly.
No,
but just shows how clever
so
they
cool.
are. And I really hope that team is given a chance to do another thing that is available, frankly, on console, because they've done 2 other games since then. One of them was a VR game called What the Bat, and a Apple Arcade game called What the Car. And I've not played.
What the Car is coming to Switch.
It is. Oh, awesome. Oh wait, actually, I think I knew that. What the Car is also fun.
Yeah, that was at the last Indie World.
Oh, all right. You're right. I'm drawing that connection now. But they're such a wacko team, and I think they have a lot of cool stuff in their wacko brains. So
they really do. What the Bat was also very fun. I reviewed that for Upload VR, and wow, what a game!
Now, I've actually only played like 1 VR game in my entire life, so that is an area of expertise that I will leave entirely to you. Next up for me is another great game. Believe it or not, I'm just flat out say it. Pikmin 4.
Oh
man.
Okay, I haven't played this yet.
Oh man.
I haven't played any Pikmin game actually.
So I played Pikmin 3 about 3 years ago, and I really loved it. Pikmin 3 Deluxe is another one of these another game that would have been in my top 10, but I wanted to limit it to strictly Switch original games. And then I went back and played Pikmin 1 and 2. All of these games are 9 out of 10 to 10 out of 10. I think all of them are fantastic. I even like Hey Pikmin, which is an unpopular opinion. But all those games are great. But Pikmin 4 is like a 15 out of 10 compared to the other games 9 out of 10. It is Pikmin in the base sense of the size and the combat and the exploration, but times fucking infinity. The other games can be beaten in like 5 hours each. 3 is maybe 10 hours long, a little under that. Pikmin 4 is like a 40-hour game, and it's one of those games that invites you oh so lovingly with its arm outstretched to please 100% me. Please do it. Please get everything, explore every nook and cranny, defeat every boss, collect every item. this game is remarkable in the way that it takes what Pikmin has done for 20 years at this point. I mean, this series is not new, but it's had so few entries that it feels small, and says it can be something more. Pikmin is small but can be a grand adventure, and it introduces Ochi, which is a mount, and totally changes the way that you're interacting with the world, and it introduces a whole new cast of like 6 main characters, which is already more than like every character that had ever been in Pikmin games up to that point, plus castaways to rescue that then unlock upgrades and give you little mini quests and fun banter with the group, and these nighttime missions, and 2 new Pikmin types, and the ghoul and the ice Pikmin, and amazing bosses, and fun sequence to find, and semi spoilers, but you rescue Olimar and you get a mini version of Pikmin 1 within this game. Like they went above and beyond. Like they hit Saturn with this shit. I mean, this is it's EPD 10, which is the Pikmin and 2D Mario team, made 2 of the best games ever made in 1 year.
Wait a second. I did not know that EPD 10 was Mario and Pikmin.
2D Mario specifically in Pikmin.
So they put out like these absolute like insane bangers like less than 2 months apart.
July to October. So obviously, but still, even within 1 year,
3 months. But yeah,
is ridiculous.
Damn, that's nuts. That is, yeah. I mean that kind of points to the secret scale that Nintendo is operating on that I think a lot of people don't always take into account.
Yeah, and Pikmin is now more popular than ever, and it's very obvious that Nintendo's making a very concerted effort to make this something that they put marketing and publicity effort into, with the re-releases of 1 and 2 and 3 Deluxe on Switch, and Bloom happening, period, and introducing many more people to Pikmin. I would not be surprised if Pikmin 5 is 4 years away as opposed to 10, and I can't wait, because I think Pikmin 4 is one of the best games ever made.
That would be
Please play this fucking game, Charlie. Dude, please.
I've been wanting to play the Pikmin games so bad.
Just start with 4.
I think this year.
Just start with 4.
This is the year that. So to do a little inside baseball here for a second as I adjust my chair. My This is the first year where I'm like reviewing a ton of games where it's like, instead of reviewing 4 games to make $500, I'm now reviewing 1 game to make $500.
Congratulations!
So now I'm able to have a little bit more freedom in the ways that I can play video games again. Where like last year I was not in a good place because I was reviewing so goddamn many games. But now I have a little bit more freedom, and I think Pikmin 1, 2, 3, and 4, now that they're all on Switch, especially with all the airplane time I have coming up, with all of the travel time that I have coming up, I think those are going to be like some very good games for me to just have on my Switch and just go into constantly. Do you think that Pikmin 4 is a good starting point?
Absolutely, and totally. I think it's the most accessible, and I think it is. I mean, I think it's the best one. But I think it's also the most similar to other modern games, and I mean that in a good way. In that Pikmin 1 and 2 especially can be a little bit alienating, and Pikmin 3 is phenomenal. I mean, it's my second favorite and one of my favorite games of all time. But Pikmin 4 has the hook that those other games, I think, are in retrospect lacking, in that you've got, different collectibles and different stats to upgrade and stuff. And it's just, I can't recommend it highly enough.
Hell yeah. No, I mostly ask because like I want to play all of them, but I also like know that that's a lot of game. It
is. 4, again, is I think bigger than or more time than all the other ones combined. I think it's worth that time, and I think it's good because of it. But still, altogether, you can beat all these games in like half the time it takes you to play fucking Rebirth. So like, they're all small in the grand scheme of things.
Sure, hell yeah. My next pick, if you know me, this pick should be obvious. If you don't know me, this pick should be also very obvious. And if you don't know about this game, you better fucking learn. Because that game is Katamari Damacy Reroll, the best video game soundtrack of all time.
Now, this is the first thing that I ever knew about you. Because I don't know how I found you. I don't know how I followed you. But I saw that you have that amazing Katamari box art, Katamari Damacy PS2 box art as your Twitter banner. And I'm like, this is a guy I need to get to know. Because I also, actually I think that's how we like talked for the first time. I also had that as my Twitter banner. And I was like, hey, this guy, he's like me. He's just like me for real.
Katamari.
Oh, whoa.
I thought I had my green screen set up to show the Katamari box art, but I don't.
I just saw like a little of your desktop. Don't pause that and look at all the files, guys. This is secret shit.
I have nothing sensitive on here. It's all games. But it is, my desktop banner is also the Katamari box art. Good. I adore this game. It is so charming, so silly, so goofy, so well written. Mm-hmm. And then it's also sorry to talk about substances a little bit on here, but it is also the ultimate stoner game, which is very much up my alley. I'm very into the weird, the silly, the goofy, the charming, and being able. This is another game that's great to show to other people. It is so approachable once you kind of get over the initial clunkiness of controlling that ball. Yeah. You have. All you need are 2 sticks. You have all these other things you can do. You don't need to do them. I beat the whole game without doing any of that. I revisit this game all the time. Sometimes I'll pop an edible and just like sit down and play this game front to back because it is just so playable. It invites you in. It rolls you in. It really keeps. It
wants to roll you up into. It wants to. You want to roll it up into your life.
Into its life.
Yeah, I was trying to do a little pronoun thing that wasn't really working, but I mean. This would be my number 5 game if I was not doing only Nintendo games. Katamari Damacy, and specifically Reroll, because it's the same game but looks a little bit better and has a little bit more options, is one of the best games ever made. I mean, I, in the same way that of you and I are two of a kind on this one. It's not. I think it's perfectly looked. It's not overlooked. It's not underlooked. I feel like the right people know about Katamari and they like it, and that's just. It's an important game to me because I think it's one of the best video games of nothing else can do this. I think it shows the way that game design can be messed with in very interesting ways. And the only problem with Katamari... It's
also really technically impressive.
Oh, totally. Yeah, there's a lot of shit going on. But the only problem with Katamari, and this is parentheses actually not a problem, I'm just being funny, is that it has a sequel called We Love Katamari that is also on Switch now and Reroll. And I can't choose which one of them I like more. Because I think We Love Katamari is probably the better game because it has more variety. But I like Damacy more because I played it first and it's a little more iconic in my mind. But wait, hold on. That just means I get 2 amazing Katamari games.
And then you start getting into Beautiful Katamari, which is another spectacular game. And Touch My Katamari. There's so many of these games.
Have I ever shown? I own every single one physically. Have I ever showed that collection?
Oh, hell yeah, dude.
I'm a
That's
sicko.
Awesome.
and the bucket hat. Which I think is up in my room, but I have the Katamari Damacy bucket hat that came with Wheel of Katamari last year.
What?
You didn't know about that? It was a pre-order bonus. I thought I told you about that last year.
You did tell me about that. Yes, I didn't get it because I ended up reviewing.
Oh, that's right. That's right. But, yeah.
Man, what a game!
What a game! Both of them.
A video game.
This slot can be play 2 amazing games on Switch.
You know what? I cheated with Mario and Rabbids 1 and 2. I will cheat again with this. Yeah,
okay,
Katamari and We Love Katamari. They're great. Like I can't recommend them enough. We Love Katamari also has a really fun co-op mode.
Yeah. All right. We are getting into more big boys here. This one needs no introduction. Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild.
Oh,
this is
okay.
This is a special game, believe it or not. Very interesting. Whoa, it's very interesting to me that this has now become seemingly, as of now, the consensus best game of all time. It started popping up on the top of very public lists from major publications, and that to me is very important. And they're right. It's very important because I have always looked at these lists, and the way that we were talking about last week of people that are creating these lists have a nostalgia that I cannot relate to. And seeing games like Ocarina of Time and Half-Life and Link to the Past and Mario 64 at the top of the list, those are all very good games, and I've played and enjoyed all of them. But seeing Breath of the Wild pop up in the top of all these lists finally shows me that the tide is turning and people like me have a little more control now. And it's just very personally satisfying in an odd way. But this was in the same way that you talked about last episode. This was my first real foray into Zelda. It was one of the first Nintendo games that I really got into that wasn't Smash or Pokemon, which were really like the main games I played, period. But picking this up alongside Switch, absolutely losing myself in it. Seeing the ways that, much actually like we were talking about praising Wonder for this, that Nintendo allowed themselves to take influence from the rest of the industry. I mean, this game is more similar to other open world games than almost any other Nintendo game is to other games, and it's all the better for it because it's still very distinctly Nintendo and very distinctly
It
Zelda.
also does it better than any other one in the genre.
That's true.
It's crazy.
Yes.
This was my number one. This
Great.
is the only game that I was willing to rank on my list. This is my favorite game of all time. I think it is also the best game ever made. It's easily the best game I've ever played. It is not the most perfect game ever made. I would argue that Super Mario Galaxy 2 is the most perfect game I've ever played, but that is not my favorite game of all time. I think Breath of the Wild is a just unbelievable melding of every possible thing that could be done well in a video game, aside from narrative, which I think is actually done still really quite well.
Yeah, it's good.
I think that there's just I can't think of a thing that I can knock this game for that it doesn't justify doing.
Totally. Yeah, and that's actually one of the most interesting things about Breath of the Wild to me is there has been, over the years, because I mean this game is almost a decade old at this point, there's been a lot of critiquing specific design elements of Breath of the Wild. And to me, I think that, as you're saying, each of them can be very succinctly and I think enjoyably justified in the design of, I love the weapons breaking. Who gives a shit? I'll give me a bunch of weapons, I'll fight with them, and they'll switch around.
Get
I
creative.
think it's great. Yeah, exactly. And I think that this game rewards exploration unlike almost any game. And I think it creates a sense of wonder like very few games do. The aesthetic of it, I think, is remarkable. And I think that the soundtrack, as sparse as it is,
it looks.
Totally. And the soundtrack, as sparse as it is phenomenal. I mean, I listened back to the parasailing minigame and Goron City and the main theme song are some of my favorite video game songs of all time. And I love the side characters, and I love the side missions, and I love Cass. And the only thing I'm relatively hit or miss on is I don't love the Divine Beast, but they're good. I don't love the champions, but they're good. But if the worst thing that I can say about a game is some small elements of it that are not the foregrounded experience are just good, then and this is one of the most important games to me of all time, and I think it's one of the best games ever made.
I think you and I, because we're not the Zelda fans that a lot of people are, have an interesting perspective on this game, right? Because I think people looking at it as being a Zelda game, I would compare this very much to The Last Jedi as Star Wars movies go. The Last Jedi, I think, in a lot of ways is a great movie, but it is not the most Star Warsy movie in a lot of ways, and often for the better and sometimes for the worse for some people. I love that movie, but I think Breath of the Wild is very similar in that way, where it is a departure from the series, but it is where it comes around, right? It is very cyclical in the sense where it is calling back to the original and skirting things that came in between.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think that is engrossing and magical, because that original game was magical. There was magic at every turn in that game. And in 1987, if you're playing 86, 87, if you're playing that for the first time, nothing compares to this because you've never seen anything like it. You've never seen blowing up a random wall to find some secret cave or something like that, in a way that I think Breath of the Wild also mirrors.
Totally. And the great thing is they didn't do it once, they did it twice on fucking Switch.
They did it twice.
Oh my
which
god.
Is insane. And the reason why Tears of the Kingdom isn't on my list personally is because frankly, I think I tried to restrict myself to one game per franchise on this list. And Breath of the Wild is this spark of originality, and it does all the things that it does for the first time in a way that, while Tears of the Kingdom does a lot of completely new things, I think Breath of the Wild really sets the stage for Tears of the Kingdom to be better than it, but it cannot be better than Breath of the Wild without Breath of the Wild first being the greatest game of all time.
Totally. And the one per franchise thing is totally fair. I'm lucky in that.
But you have Tears of the Kingdom on the list.
I do have Tears of the Kingdom on the list.
Yes.
But actually, every other game I've talked about this so far has been from a different franchise. So it just shows that Switch has one of the best libraries of all time, and all the games from different series have all been pretty goddamn great across the board. But yeah, great pick. We just got to knock out two of ours. So I will move on. Oh, no, I guess, do we throw it back to you? Or me? Because you technically also just talked about one of yours. It doesn't fucking matter. But
So my next game would have been Splatoon 3.
oh, gotcha. Okay.
But skipping past that, we're at the game that I was teasing earlier as something that's going to be out of left field that I don't think anyone expects.
Wait, so I still have 3 games to talk about. How many? Do you have?
I have 2.
Okay. So whatever. It's fine. It's fine.
I think one of ours is going to be the same
Sure.
game. I know for a fact one of ours is going to be the same game. Why don't you go next?
All right. My next game, my number 3 favorite game on Switch and one of my favorite games of all time,
Ooh, I can see the box.
is Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is not only, I think, really the first JRPG I ever like serious JRPG that I ever engrossed myself in. I'm not talking about fucking Pokemon. I'm not talking about Fire Emblem, which is an RPG made in Japan. But this is a JRPG-ass JRPG where there's fucking big booby characters and anime tropes. But it's also one of the most like genuine games I've ever played in my life. I think that the world of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is, I think it actually might be, out of all the games we've talked about today, I think it's my favorite world. I think the world of All Rest and the Titans and the politics between them and the ways in which culture has evolved, and you learn about the history of this world over the course of a 70-hour game that tells you about like this like multiversal thing and the world tree and that actually this was Earth at one point, and beneath the cloud sea is the remnants of like human civilization, and on top of it with these fucking crazy characters and the giant titans that have been battling. It creates a world that just spins my mind out into, oh my god, what is possible. It opens my 4th eye. It adds 2 eyes, and I open both of them.
Oh shit. Gotta get some glasses.
And I think the combat is fantastic. I think this is... Ooh, actually, I think this might be the best soundtrack on Switch. Fuck you, New Horizons. I think the Xenoblade Chronicles 2 soundtrack is the best one on Switch. And this is my favorite JRPG cast of all time. Poppy, Tora, Pyra, Mithra, Rex, Gramps. They have a little turtle that they make jokes about. It's just a little turtle. He's funny. His name's Turter. He's great. Turters. Morag, Zeke, Pandoria, oh god, what's the fucking lion guy's name? Whatever. There's a lot of characters, and also, guess what? Not only do you have a great party of like, what is that, 10 or 11 characters, and they're all great, and they all get the perfect amount of screen time, and they have a great banter back and forth, and they all show up. One of my favorite things about JRPGs is when you build a giant group, and they're all there, and they're all showing up, and they're all like giving their quips and stuff. This game is full of that. But then also, you get the Blade system, which gives you like 50 other characters that have like narrative arcs that you get to add to your party and learn about. And you find them in different ways, and sometimes you'll get a blade that has a whole story from a random side quest that you found down an alleyway. And it rewards exploration and has these beautiful vistas. It's not one of the best looking games on Switch. This game looks pretty crunchy, but it has art direction and passion behind it that transcends that. And I think it's remarkable. And it's easily my favorite JRPG of all time. And anyone who looks at a couple of the blade designs or some moments with Tora that are like cringe anime and overlooks the moments that of passion and camaraderie and adventure and friendship and swelling music, I think is missing the forest for the trees. I think this game is genuine and passionate and remarkable and one of my favorite games of all time. Add to the stack.
Hell yeah. I don't have much to say about this game. I was a big fan of the first one, did not fully finish it, but this one missed the mark for
Totally
me.
fair.
I didn't like the combat, I didn't like the music as much, and I didn't like none of the characters really got me, but I also did not get very far.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I got like 15-20 hours in, and I was like, I cannot do this. But I do want to go back and like get further in, because I've heard a lot of great things about like the game once you get into a certain point, and then it's like, oh, it really starts hitting very quickly after where I'm at.
Yeah.
But so I still have 2 games
And
left.
now I have 2 games left.
You still have 2 games
Perfect.
left.
Back on track.
Why don't you go next? Because I still think that our shared game is going to be this next one.
Ta-da! Super
never mind.
Mario Odyssey.
Okay.
Man, this game
What a video game.
This game makes me... It makes every single one of my body parts smile. And it also has my favorite game review of all time, which is Video Game Donkey's
Yes.
Dunk View of Super Mario Odyssey. I rewatched. Salute to the master. I rewatched that review of this game, not only because it's incredibly well written, but because I think it encapsulates what's so special about this. I'll leave a link in the description. But there are lines from Donkey's review of this game. Because this game is so special to me, because that review is so special to me, that I quote, just random. You can be a Goombas. or that it equal parts, it's equal parts. There's a line. I quote it, but it's escaping me right now. I'm so flustered by how much I love Super Mario Odyssey that I can't give the words out right. I think
What a video game.
I think that this is another one of the great soundtracks on Switch. I think it has some of the best level variety ever done in a game. I think that the exploration is rewarding and the world design is intricate, and it incentivizes both speed and mastery and taking in the sights in equal parts, which is an incredibly difficult feat, but this is some of the best 3D platform. I mean, I think it's the best 3D platforming controls ever made. I think that the capture mechanic is one of the smartest things that Nintendo has ever done, because one of the interesting things about previous 3D Mario games, which I enjoy all of them, is that only a few of them have power-ups. And the power-ups are like only like sometimes in there, and sometimes they don't like quite work right, and you're like, what the hell is this? But the captures are a retooling of one of the most iconic parts of Mario, which is those power-ups, except for there's like fucking 60 of them. And sometimes they're just a joke, and that's awesome. Sometimes you turn into a tree and hop 3 times, and you're like, why did they do that? But it's funny. And I like a game that does funny things with its characters, with its world design, with its unlockables. I love customizing the Odyssey. I love Cappy. I love the fact that it rejects and embraces tradition in such exciting and fun ways. Like much like we're talking about What the Golf, I think that this game does the same thing of it has all the nostalgia bits. You can get a little Sunshine style outfit. You go into 2D Mario 8-bit sprite. You
frequently.
New Donk City is referencing fucking Donkey Kong Country, and there's Galaxy references, and when you use the menu in the right way, it plays fucking Rosaline Observatory theme. They put all the nostalgia into this, but also they were like, this is also gonna be like the most original game we've ever made. Period. They're like, we'll just have our cake and devour it too. I mean, we'll make 20 cakes and eat all of them. I think this is one of the best games ever made. This is also one of the few games I've ever replayed, and I've 100%ed it multiple times. I don't replay games very often, but I've speedrun this game, which I don't do for basically anything. Is that the speedran? Speedrun.
I honestly don't know what the correct denomination of that would be.
But Super Mario Odyssey is, I mean, it's
like anyone else, I really can't say enough good things about this game. I think like you said, like the captures, the movement, the even the story.
Sure.
And can we talk about how this game has multiple of the greatest video game moments?
Sure.
Ever?
Yeah.
I mean, the moment where you capture Bowser at the very end,
and a vocal track starts going
unrivaled, and it's like this like pop rock fucking just like jam. And you're just running through, smashing everything in your way as everything's falling apart around you, and the music's just going crazy. It's such a perfect example of like how flexible the Mario world and formula can be, and made into 8 billion different things. And nobody's ever going to go through Odyssey the same way too, which is a part of, I think, what expands on how magical that game is.
The flexibility is remarkable, because you don't have to get the story moons if you don't want to. Okay, that's awesome. That's great. That means that routing for speedruns and the flexibility is just off the charts. And the final thing I want to mention is, okay, so you get New Donk City. That whole section is great. You get the culmination at the end. It's amazing. You get the final boss and you become Bowser, and there's a great song playing, and the end cutscene of Peach just leaving the two of them on the moon. That's all great. But then the moment that really touches me is when you beat Darker Side, which is the last world of the game, and you go through this incredibly difficult gauntlet that's like 25 minutes long, and it incorporates everything from the entire game up to that point. And then you're using the wire, which is one of the first captures you get in the game, and you're going across this wire, and it just says thank you. You go across this wire, and it's like, damn, they really cared. and it's a game full of passion and wonder and ridiculous excitement and creativity, and you can be a fork, you can be a tree, you can be a goddamn Goombas, and nothing makes me feel as elated as playing that game.
If you want to hear Tucker gush more about this spectacular video game, you should go listen to his episode, the Mario Odyssey episode of Jared Petty's Top 100 Games podcast. Tucker will have that link down below in the description. Okay. That is one of my favorite podcasts, and that is actually how I found out about Tucker. Or actually, no, I think I followed you before that. I followed you before you were on that podcast, but Jared Petty is one of our industry's greatest. I truly think that he is like the progenitor to a lot of like the video game podcast stuff that you see now. He has his fingers in so many pies, and he's deeply knowledgeable and deeply personable and personal. And he tells a really beautiful story about it on that episode as well. And I think, Tucker, you also say some great things. But seriously, I cannot say enough good stuff about like Jared in particular. He's influenced my work a lot.
All right. Number ones, or last games for both of us. Not number ones. You already talked about yours, Breath of the Wild.
No, I have 2 games left.
My bad.
But again, I think your last game is going to be my last game as well. My next game is Wolfenstein 2, The New.
That's an awesome pick.
This is, for my money, my favorite video game story, period.
Wow, okay, cool.
It is stupid, it is over the top, it is funny, but it is biting. It is punk rock as hell. This game came out at a time in American history and world history that I think is very interesting for a lot of reasons. And somehow things have kept getting worse in a lot of ways in the US and politically, and in a lot of the things that kind of sprawl out from there and socially and stuff like that. And this game takes every single one of those things and literally shoots them into space and kills them. It is frenetic and fast in its action moments, but it also has great stealth. It also has spectacular music. Mick Gordon, composer of the Doom games, is on this game. It has one of the funniest moments in any video game, which I'm not going to spoil. I can't. But there are so many moments in this story in particular that are just raw. They are just the coolest fucking thing. And it is unrelentingly based. It is all about killing Nazis, no quarter for any of that bullshit, and it also talks a lot about a lot of the great threats to not threats, but a lot of the great like terrors lurking underneath the surface of American history in a way that I think is both exciting and important and educational. I mean, it also has a lot of commentary. You pick up you find records throughout these levels that have music tracks on them from certain eras that mirror songs from the 60s, because this is an alt history game set in the 60s. So you have your analogs to like the Beatles or the Rolling Stones, but because the Nazis won, it is a different lens on that, and it is still reshaped because a lot of those artists either drew from or stole from black artists in the States from the 40s, 50s, and earlier. And the ways that people even talk about that music is expanded upon and made very interesting in a way that reveals again a lot of the sin and evil beneath this country and its culture and history in ways that I truly cannot love enough.
That's a great pick. I love New Order. I have played about 2 hours of New Colossus, and then I got fucking distracted by something. But I love New Order.
You played the boring part of New Colossus.
Well, I also, funny enough, that's actually quite a good mirror to New Order, which has a very boring opening. And I thought I would not like that game as I played the first hour of that game. But then that game goes crazy and is awesome and good in its own right. But I'm saving New Colossus for a rainy day because with my love for crazy stories and funny characters and Machine Games just know how to fucking make them. And hey,
they know how to dome a fucking Nazi.
In the way that none of these other games we've talked about today have the guts to do. You don't see Mario or Link doing any shit like that. It's not an Animal Crossing.
Let him go to Venus and shoot fucking Hitler in the face. Yeah, no, that game, like, I played that game on Switch. I think it came out on my birthday when it came out, or it was either on my birthday or the day after my birthday when it came out in 2018.
Yeah.
And that was one of the first games like that I played, and I could not put it down. I mean, its story is just so good.
Yeah.
What's your next pick, Tucker?
My next pick, and considering what you were saying, I guess our final game that we're going to be talking about,
I think so.
Is Legends of Tears of the Kingdom.
Okay, it's not the final game we're talking about today then.
Oh, wait. Oh, okay. Okay, I know what your last one is, obviously.
Yeah.
Legends of Tears of the Kingdom it's very rare that a game cracks into my top 3 or 5 favorite games of all time. And I espoused my love for Breath of the Wild nonstop, and I have for years, and I will continue to for years. But I am in the camp that thinks that Tears of the Kingdom is an improvement in ostensibly every single way, and I didn't think that was fucking possible. And one of my favorite things is when I play one of my favorite games of all time, and I adore it, and I love it, and I talk about it for years, and I listen to podcasts about it, and then a game comes along that does something very similar, but does it better, and makes the other game fucking obsolete in my mind. And now that sounds like a criticism, and technically what it means is that I love Breath of the Wild less. Let's use hand quotes. We're using arm quotes again. But what it just means is that I have 2 games that I
Yeah.
and Legends of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom recaptured the love that I had for Breath of the Wild and made me realize, much actually like Legends of Arceus did, that there were things in that game that I wish had changed. And they changed them, and they did in Tears of the Kingdom. I think this game has a interesting narrative. I think it has phenomenal characters. I vastly prefer the new champion team that you're building and taking alongside you, the Sages. I think that the aesthetic of this game is Breath of the Wild plus, because you get the great Breath of the Wild blues and greens, but you give it a little gold and a little bit of teal in there. I'm like, oh, chef's kiss. I think that the way that it builds upon the side quest narratives that I was mentioning that I loved so much in Breath of the Wild are basically unmatched, because there are very few games, especially by Nintendo, that you get that builds upon a story like this in terms of time, and revisiting Terrytown and Laurelin Village and Kakariko and seeing how things have changed. And unlike so many games RPGs especially, where you play as a silent protagonist, people know Link and they like him. And so I think that personal connection in this world, not only to the more current goings on of what's happening to the 4 regions versus Breath of the Wild, which is a lot more about the past, I think creates a sense of urgency and community, and the way that the tone is much more hopeful and about rebuilding and about coming together and having a sense of community, I think is remarkable. And Ultra Hand and Rewind and Ascend. So they put multiple of the most technically impressive and insane mechanics of all time into one of the best games of all time, and they put them all together, and they all work, and the game never fucking breaks.
It's shocking. This game, I mean, I am probably a third of the way through it, I want to say.
Oh, you haven't beaten it?
No, it's a long game,
yeah,
and I haven't had a ton of time. Just again, work stuff
happening
all the time, and also just like it's one of those. I feel the same way. Like I haven't gotten very far into Rebirth either, for this exact reason, where it's like I have trouble. It definitely like a certain like ADHD response thing to like, oh, this task seems difficult, but in reality it is not, and not any more demanding than this other task that I'm doing. But I haven't finished Rebirth. I haven't finished Tears of the Kingdom. There's a ton of games that I haven't finished because sitting back down to play them and re-enter that world feels like such a daunting task.
I know exactly
That's
what
why
you
I
mean.
don't finish RPGs. It's because a lot of them are long and demanding in a, not necessarily in a cognitive way, but they are demanding in a temporal way that keeps me from wanting to go back to them.
I know exactly what you mean, and I understand the trepidation. But I do think that this is a game, not only that, I mean, I'm sure you like what you've played of it, but I think that you could grow to.
I adore it. I
love.
just feel I have trouble putting it on a list because I haven't finished it yet.
And that's totally fair. There's actually a game that I omitted from my list that is one of the best games I've played on Switch, which is Xenoblade 3, which I never finished. But I played like half of it, and it's one of the best games I've ever played. But I'm not talking about it today because I didn't roll credits on it. But Tears of the Kingdom is also is a game that I think only gets better the more you play it. I think that this game not only has some generally fantastic, I think some of the best moments in Zelda history nearing the end of the game. There are boss fights and set pieces that I think are genuinely fantastic. And emotional moments and story things. But also, this game introduces so many mechanics that seem so overwhelming at first, and there's so many new collectibles and so many weird things out in the environment, and they added caves and wells and tripled the amount of enemy variety and added new weapons, and they added the Sky Islands, and they added the fucking depths. And all of this seems ridiculous. But as you play the game more and more, you realize everything is there for a fucking purpose, in the same way that Breath of the Wild has so many design decisions that some people might criticize. But I think that the thought put into these games is unmatched. And when you realize that the materials you get in the Sky Islands that you then craft into things in the overworld, combined with things in the depths, and then the ways that you collect the sunflowers in the Sky Islands, those are helpful in the depths. And then the depths, the caves are actually, and the depths are like a mirror of the overworld. And so the way that you find shrines can be compared to like both ways. And so you can like compare the map in interesting ways. And then the combat and your skills with Ultra Hand and putting things together and learning how the mechanics work. And some of the mechanics that you don't even unlock until significantly later in the game. This game continues to reveal itself and teach you how impressive its harmony and the care that was put into it is apparent from square one, but I think it only becomes more and more apparent the more you immerse yourself in it and more you pay attention to the subtle design techniques and decisions it's making. And the final thing that I think makes it one of the most remarkable games of all time is it's a game that you said this about one game earlier. I don't remember which one it was, but that I think it was roguelikes. You said it's a game where it feels like you can be given the middle finger to the developer. And you're like cheating and like finding a way out of it. But Aonuma and Fujibayashi know that. And they designed all of this. And so you feel like you're getting out of the box.
They're in on it.
But the box is so much bigger than you could possibly fucking imagine that it's just one of the most impressive technical feats. I mean, it runs and looks better than Breath of the Wild on the exact same hardware 7 years
shocking.
later. And it's bigger. It's a remarkable, very, very, very important game to me. And I'm proud to say that it made me like Breath of the Wild even a modicum less, because it means that team was able to put out 2 of the best games of all time. And I don't think it'll happen. Yes, back to back. I mean, big gap, but I don't think it'll happen. But I will be on the team championing this as the best game of all time. I don't think it'll happen. I think that your thing about, Tears of the Kingdom couldn't happen without Breath of the Wild, I think that's probably the prevailing sentiment that will prevent this from becoming that new number one. But I in my heart, and I think I can make a case from a design way that this is the superior game and one of the best games I've ever played.
Hell yeah. My last game.
I got it right here.
One that I am shocked.
I got it right here, baby.
Shocked was not on your list. Is Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. I mean, shocked. Smash Bros. Ultimate. That Ultimate.
I don't know.
Maybe Fortnite?
Sure.
And that's not even a video game thing. That's just entertainment in general. But Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is a museum, an ode to Nintendo history and in many ways video game history in general. I mean, no, it isn't all encompassing, but it is encompassing of many of the most important video games of all time. And I don't think that's a controversial thing to say.
No, yeah.
I mean,
it is the most encompassing game.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you have representation from every era of video game, every genre, so many different types of things, all translated and condensed into this one little package that is chock full of things. It is so full of loving homage after loving homage, whether it is a moveset, a song, a stage. Every single aspect of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is fine-tuned to be exactly what it needs to be, and that is the definitive love letter to video games that exists. I don't think that there is a single video game that comes even remotely close to being able to tell the story of video games without much of a story at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like the game's story
World
mode
of
that
Light,
much. And I still think that this is one of the best Switch games. I still think this is one of the best fighting games of all time.
Yeah.
I'm also a competitive Smash player. I have been for nearly 10 years at this point. This game defined the hype cycle for so long for me because of the DLC characters and the trailers and everything. I mean, there is so much that I can say about this game positively, and I every time I think about it, I'm just almost overwhelmed by the scale of it all.
Yeah.
There are so many like intricacies. You have Captain Falcon fighting against Olimar, fighting against Solid Snake, fighting against Pyra and Mithra from Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and every single one of those characters somehow feels perfectly in place.
Yeah.
None of them feel weird or out of place, and they're translated brilliantly, and every character's moveset represents something about them, right? Snake is this calculating, tactical, slow-moving, but very powerful fighter compared to Mario, who's acrobatic and jumping around and able to do a little bit of everything, because that's what Mario is, right? It is a deeply flexible world and character and cast of characters. And it is also just this ultimate library of video game music.
Oh, dude.
Talk about the best video game soundtrack of all time. I mean,
It has to be Ultimate.
Excluding, I have to exclude Super Smash Bros. Ultimate because it's cheating.
Yeah,
it is taking 90% of the best video game songs, period, and putting them into one game, and sometimes recontextualizing them, remixing them, recomposing them in ways that make those already amazing songs even better.
Yeah. Ultimate is one of the best games ever made. It is one of my favorite games of all time, kind of by default, because this is one of the most important games to me and to the ways that it built upon what came before. And I think that some of the threads that I've been noticing we've been picking at through all the games that we've talked about today is surprise, passion, and variety. And Smash Ultimate has all of that and then some. I think that Sakurai might be, especially through Smash Ultimate, the most one of the most authorial and commanding video game creators ever made, ever born. Because you look at Smash Ultimate and you're like, wow, he brought back every character. That's awesome. That's really cool. This is a comprehensive, definitive Smash game that balances between Smash 4 and Melee and brings in some elements of Brawl in terms of having a meaty campaign and recognizes where the series can grow and evolve and take cues from the competitive scene, things like that. But then he also is willing to continually one-up himself in a way that like almost hurts your brain. And in some ways, I look at Smash Ultimate and I feel both proud of him and bad for him, because I look at that and I'm like, you did what to put Steve in the game? What's wrong with you, man?
This guy, I mean, Masahiro Sakurai, I really do attribute most of Smash Ultimate's greatness to him. And I know auteur theory, especially in video games, is a deeply flawed one. But, I mean, it is inhuman.
Yeah.
The things that this man has done to make this game good and successful and lastingly so.
Yeah. And they also like reached into areas that were totally unnecessary but are really, really funny. Like they added crossover collaboration skins as DLC that then came with tracks. Like you can get fucking Megalovania in this game. Yeah. Because they know that Toby Fox is awesome and that Undertale is a great game and that it's a part of games history. They reached into the indie scene of having Shantae and Shovel Knight as a fucking assist trophy, and then they added like fucking 13 Sentinels as a spirit, and like there's a VR mode Resident for Labo. Like what's wrong with you? No one would have said, "Oh, this game's incomplete" without any of that, but they did it because it's cool because they care and because and they supported it for so long, and they added a second fucking wave of even more fighters. They not only added those DLC characters, they did another one with another character. What? And technically, one of those was 2 characters. What's wrong with you? And then they did Sora.
The reveals for this game. I mean, Steve fucking broke Twitter.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
Twitter stopped working when Steve got revealed for Smash. I don't know if there's another video game with this kind of impact that comes from video games.
Tim Geddes broke somebody's laptop because of this game.
I mean, dude, I almost broke multiple things in my house. I was doing a live stream reaction to the reveal of this game when in my childhood bedroom at home, and when the moment they showed that cavern, the first shot of that trailer, I knew exactly what the fuck was about to happen, and that is when you knew that Sakurai was pulling out all the stops, and then you get K. Rool, and then you get all these different small fan requested things.
Banjo,
that shows you
Simon, and not only Simon, fuck you, also Richter. Suck my dick.
Richter! Fucking weird-ass left field take.
Fuck you, Crom. We already had Robin and Lucina from Awakening. Fuck you, Crom as well.
It hurts my brain. Like, this game's existence and this game's just raw insistence on being everything and encompassing everything is... It hurts. It hurts to think about because it is so fucking crazy.
Yeah, and I think that the longevity of that game and the all-encompassing nature of it creates sort of a video game monolith that in the way that many people have said it'll be difficult to surpass blank, 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 blank. I think that Smash Ultimate feels like the definitive one of those, and now that's current bias. I think it's possible. I think it'd be very difficult. I think it's possible to surpass it in the future. But the fact that it posits itself as Ultimate is a kind of big ball swinging confidence that is terrifying almost. I mean, you look at this game and you look at the roster and you look at the track list, and I think another part of why I love this game so much, even though the reason why it's not in my top 10, I love this game, I enjoy playing it, but I'm not a fighting game guy, and I don't play Smash by myself. It's a friends thing, but for me, it's the cultural experience, it's the reactions, it's the community conversation that comes out of this game. And all Smash games, but this game in particular, that I think makes it so special because every single bit of its promotion and marketing was fine-tuned to get a titillation out of you. They knew that they were going to tease the game. We don't know if it's a port of Smash 4 or not, so there's conversation around that, so that gets people talking. And then Sakurai comes on, he's like, we're revealing the characters first. What the fuck? That's weird. And then it's like, Battlefield looks a little bit different. And then Mario's cape and Toad is like next to Peach. And so there's like some weird changes here. And then awesome, Ice Climbers are back. That's awesome. Oh shit. Pokemon Trainer back. And then Ganondorf has a new design. And then Snake and then Cloud Snake.
Everyone
Snake
is here.
Yes, it's Snake and then everyone is here. And then they know this. Pichu. The fact that they have Pichu right after that is what clues me into they know. They fucking know. And then when they are like, this is the number of stages, and then, if you times that because also technically there's a Omega form and then there's a Battlefield form too, fuck you. And then, these are the number of soundtracks that are in Smash 4, plus the DLC, and then fuck you, here's the number of soundtrack. Like, they know.
That is, I don't think that there's ever going to be a reveal trailer for a video game that is as perfectly executed and understands the assignment as well as the everyone is here trailer for Smash Ultimate. I regularly will go back and watch that. And I want to take a moment to shout out someone who's been very impactful on my career, first as a content creator and now as a journalist and content creator. And that is Etika.
Yep, me too. Me too, buddy.
I grew up watching his videos more than anybody else's. His energy and spirit and hype are something that I hope to emulate and be able to bring to the table because he was someone who got me excited about things that I never knew I would be able to be excited about. And he did it in a way that was inclusive and funny and informed, but never gatekeeping.
Yeah, definitely.
And and all about just
He rubbed spaghetti on his face that one time. I love that moment.
He's just he's a personal hero of mine who was a victim of a lot of really horrible stuff online and took his own life in a very tragic sequence of events. And I really can't divorce Super Smash Bros. Ultimate's impact from his impact
definitely.
in my life.
Yeah.
Seriously, I mean, that game has introduced me to so many great people, so many awesome friends, but it was very much the kind of a turning point in Etika's career that really shaped my own in a lot of ways, and my approach to talking about video games. And I wouldn't be here without that.
Totally. Me too. Very special game, special guy, special community, and God willing, let's see what happens next with Sakurai. Oh shit!
Yeah.
Now that is our top 10s. We've gone obviously very long. I doubt we're going to go longer than this on any future episode, frankly. But important to give all these games their due. But we still have community submissions. We have, let's say with me, everyone, friend coded. Yeah.
Friend coded.
We'll have to have someone compose a jingle for that and do a little graphic design.
That would be fun.
Friend coded. This is our segment where we reach out to the community, ask them about the topic they were talking about today, get their memories, and bring those in to give a little bit of outside perspective, not just from the two of our brains. And Charlie and his fucking passionate Twitter reply community have come in full force again. So
good Lord. I mean, I don't think we're going to be able to get to every single one of these, but to go kind of quickly off of some of the hits, we've got Adam Morgan talking about Botany Manor. Morgan Shaver shouts out Snake Pass.
Botany Manor.
Samson shouts out Snipper Clips.
Yeah.
Imogen shouts out Starman. Christian Buckley shouts out Metroid Dread and Hades. Someone whose name I'm forgetting at the moment because they have a silly Twitter name, not their real name, says El Shaddai, which is a game I've never heard of. And like the fact that you can just have a favorite game on Switch that's like unheard of to like someone like me who's in the shit, so cool.
It just came out like a week ago, and it's like a fucking like obscure GameCube game, Japanese exclusive GameCube game or something like that. So that's why you haven't heard of it. I hadn't heard of it till like 5 days ago when Abram told me about it. We've got someone saying Celeste, Metroid Dread, Xenoblade 3, Tears of the Kingdom. Jake Steinberg says Enter the Gungeon.
Hell yeah.
Sam says Gnosia, which I don't even know what that game is.
Gnosia? I think that's like a visual novel.
Okay. Brad Shankar says Tears of the Kingdom, Metroid Dread, Three Houses, Smash Ultimate, and Paranorma Site? I don't even know what that is.
I think I've heard about that one.
Sarah says Crypt of the Necrodancer. Someone whose name is OCO or Sriracha.
Oh, that's someone from the Wisconsin Smash community.
They say Puyo Puyo Tetris 2. Devil May Cam says Astral Chain. And I think maybe the funniest suggestion here is Nina McKee says Good Job.
Wild inclusion. I love that. I didn't get very far in this, but I've heard it's very fun.
I played a little bit of it. It's a good time. But again, it just goes to show that even though I focused in only on first party games and you reached out into indies, that the Switch has a very, very wide reaching library. I think it has the biggest library of any Nintendo system. And there's a lot of great games on here, and obviously we'll be talking about more of them going into the future. An episode that we're going to have coming up soon is going to be talking about third-party games on Switch, which will give us a opportunity to talk about all the unlikely and strange and big games that were brought to Switch kind of for the first time in Nintendo history. And one example of that, and I'm going to go through quickly some of the Backlog Banter community submissions from my Discord server, which the link is in the description. Comes from my friend Andrew Orozco of My Star Wars Show fame. If you like Star Wars and you want to hear some people talk who are passionate talk about it, there's a show called My Star Wars Show that's on the Backlot Banter channel. Andrew says, and Andrew is a co-host on that. So Andrew says Skyrim, the game that has been memed to oblivion, For its many ports across various systems, it's probably my favorite Switch game. I have fond memories of playing it on the plane on my way to visit family in Mexico. My friend Sith Scott says Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is my favorite Switch game. The story, characters, and music, and the game's aesthetics are amazing. I'm so glad Microsoft knows how to cook when it comes to games and working their magic on the Switch. Rico Lee, who was our first reply last time, said, I'd personally say that the upcoming Paper Mario 1000 Year remake, which is weird, obviously the game's not out yet, but I'm sure he just loves 1000 Year Door, or Xenoblade 2 would be my favorite, but they're both nearly tied because I love everything about both games. Brogan Chatton says, Animal Crossing New Horizons, a game that breached cultural osmosis because everyone was stuck inside for a year. I think there's a lot of things I miss from the older Animal Crossing titles, but sometimes it's less about the design and more about being the right game at the right time. And that's it.
I also want to shout out Pikachu Lita and Danny Lalanders, who are both replying from a different channel. Pikachu Lita shouted out Mega Aquarium, which is not a game I'm familiar with.
How do you spell that? Mega or Mech?
Mega Aquarium.
Mega Aquarium. I like aquariums, so yeah. I'm going to be looking this up.
And then Danny shouted out Cosmic Wheel Sisterhood, another one that I'm not overly familiar with, and then Donut County, which...
Oh, yeah.
Whew,
that is a great game. Yeah, I love that game. Well, do we have anything to close out? Or are we wrapping up here? Or both?
I think that's about it. Let me double check. Yeah, no, I think we've talked for quite some time about quite a few spectacular video games, and I want to thank everyone who's stuck around this long for tuning in, for watching, for hanging out, and for coming through with some of your own picks for your favorite Nintendo Switch games. You can find me at CHAS_MKE just about everywhere on the internet, everywhere that matters. And
Pornhub, 4chan, Kick.
Yes. Pornhub, 4chan, OnlyFans, unless if you're in Texas. Which, good luck with that.
Sorry.
And then Tucker, you want to tell everyone where the good people can find you?
Yeah, I have a Twitter account. It's my name, Tucker Hazel. I also have a Discord server, which frankly, I don't really give a shit if you follow me on Twitter. Because no one likes my fucking posts anyway. But if you join my Discord, then you'll actually be able to talk to me. And I like talking to people, especially about Nintendo games. I want to both say thank you, of course, for you, Charlie, for joining me, but also everyone who's watching. And make it clear that, yeah, we rapid fired those friend-coded ones, but that's because we've been going for over 2 hours. So friend-coded will be a more substantial part of the show in terms of we'll actually like read them out and discuss them more in the future. But you got your money's worth, aka zero, but you got your money's worth on this podcast. So thank you everyone for joining us for Nintendo Select, a Nintendo Switch retrospective and nostalgia podcast. Tucker Hazel, yes. Oh, Charlie, one finger.
When is this coming out?
It's gonna go up on Friday.
Friday, that is the 10th.
Correct.
My review of Animal Well in Game Informer
we'll be out by that point.
Is out now.
Yeah,
go read it. Go check it out. Subscribe to Game Informer.
Give them money.
Give them your money.
And give me your subscription, because you can't give me money. But I appreciate everyone for watching. I appreciate you, Charlie, for joining me, and we will see you guys next week. Slow nod. One of us is gonna bring the energy, and one of us is gonna be like, "Yo, man, calm the hell down, man."
Yeah, just like taking hits off of a joint off camera.
Yeah, I'll have to go. I'll go behind my microphone.
Yeah, just your bubbling, the bubbling of a ball.
And then I'll take out my bourbon.
Nice little.
This is agave,
whiskey,
which I'm gonna put in my tea.
Ooh.
The honey we hadn't been used in forever, so it was like all stuck to the bottom, like I couldn't do anything with it. Like I'm not gonna be able to get that into my tea. So we are gonna.
Man, you gotta...
Now it just looks like I'm spiking my tea with fucking whiskey.
Well,
that would suck.
Whiskey and tea. I have made very good drinks with whiskey and tea, but you can't just put whiskey in tea.
Yeah.
You can't just do whiskey and tea. But that does sound like a move that I would do, to be honest.
Yeah. You gotta bring that energy to a future NS episode.
Oh, we'll make it happen.
The whiskey tea vibe. That's gonna be when we do the NS like in person, like we're like in front of a crowd, you know, we're just be like,
Oh yeah, no, that's a PAX panel right
exactly. Yeah, I mean,
Honestly,
we'll get there.
You know what?
Well,
We
and
probably
then we'll have
could do a
and then we'll
PAX
have
panel.
then we'll have Jeff Grubb on our couch. Boom.
Goddamn right.
Fuck you,
You're
Giant
goddamn
Bomb.
right. Yeah.
Oh yeah, wait, hold on. A good cup of Joe. If you called coffee Joe, can you call tea like Jonathan?
I feel like that's like Jonathan or Jimmy or like
Fresh
Robert.
cup of Jimmy.
Jimmy.
And then you get the loud slurp.